Hello everyone, welcome back to Roguelike of the Week. Now that this year's 7DRL challenge is done, we can get back into that. So, this one is this week's Roguelike of the Week. It's called the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. And as you'll notice from the message at the bottom of the screen, it's based on the book of the same name from 1982 by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Arguably the book that kicked off the whole single-player gamebook experience, which was a big hit in the 80s and early 90s. I still have a fair few of the fighting fantasy gamebooks, including this one, although personally I was always more of a lone wolf fan. There might be some of you out there who are aware that I actually have a lone wolf-themed tattoo, so that should tell you something about how much of an influence those books had on me as a child/adolescent. Anyway, this is based on the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. So, essentially, in the caves underneath the cheesily named Firetop Mountain lives an evil warlock, and he has a load of treasure and stuff. This book wasn't particularly advanced or elaborate in its plot or setting. It was basically go and kill the evil warlock and nick his stuff. It's fairly amusing looking back on it that where a lot of the other fighting fantasy game books were about stopping someone who was going to try and take over the world or unleash demons or something of that nature. In the first book, you were there to kill the warlock and take his stuff, for no other reason than he has it. So, in many ways, you're actually the bad guy here. Anyway, let's jump in, shall we? So, the game is pretty simple. It's done in ASCII. I'll call myself Alf, because that is an old tradition, as I've remarked before. It's all done in ASCII, and it's a pretty simple game. It doesn't have any elaborate or complex mechanics. Sometimes roguelike players get too hung up on the need for complexity and depth of mechanisms and things. It can't always be NetHack or Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, both of which are games I don't particularly like. So I'm all in favour of a bit of simplicity, as long as it's fun. And I do get some enjoyment out of this. It's one I've been playing on and off for a while, for probably a couple of years, and I just keep finding myself drawn back to it occasionally. Recently, I have actually got down towards what I take to be the end of the game, near the end of the game. I've got to the Maze of Zagor, and if memory serves, from the way the gamebook goes, that's pretty close to the end. But I haven't quite made it yet. So, here we are advancing across the open plains outside the mountain, and we're going to have to come to the entrance in a second, but it's guarded by a few orcs. Controls are very simple. Move around with the number pad. You can use F to shoot with a ranged attack. You always start off with, let me show you, some armour, a melee weapon, a bow, and some arrows. Or it could be a crossbow and some quarrels, I suppose. But you always have melee weapon, armour, and projectile weapon. They're not always the same ones. Sometimes you'll have a club, sometimes you'll have a short sword, sometimes you'll have an axe, and so on. So you don't always have the same strength of start. For instance, we started off with a leather set of armour here, but we could equally have had chainmail, which tends to be slightly better. Your stats are also somewhat randomised. If you look at the bottom of the screen, we've got stamina 13, skill 11, which is given a +1 by our +1 short sword, and luck 9. And this is all based on the fighting fantasy books, where you have skill, stamina, and luck as your stats, and you roll them up. Skill was rolled up as 1d6, so the roll of a 6-sided die, added to the number 6. So it would be anywhere between 7 and 12. Stamina was 2d6 plus 12, so it would be anywhere between 14 and 24. And luck was the same as skill. So what we've got here is actually a reasonably strong character. Stamina is on the low side. In fact, stamina is impossibly low for fighting fantasy. And then we've got skill, which is pretty high, and our luck is okay. Actually, I think Warlock of Firetop Mountain may have had slightly different rolling stats rules from the later books. So It might be 2d6 plus 6 or something for stamina. But anyway, our stamina isn't great. Our skill is good and our luck is all right. Skill is really the most important one because that's going to determine how effectively we fight. And the equipment, as I said, the +1s and things on here indicate not a bonus to damage, but a bonus to skill. So, let's take out this orc as it approaches, shall we? We haven't got a lot of arrows, but we'll close the distance a little bit, and then we'll pop off a few arrows just to weaken it. There we go. Then let it approach, and hopefully finish it off. We are taking a bit of damage, which isn't great. I'll pick up this chainmail, because it could be better than our current one. Again, fire off a couple of arrows. There we go, that one went a bit better. In the newest version of Warlock of Firetop Mountain, you do automatically pick up any projectiles you've fired, which you walk over. In earlier versions, you had to pick them up manually. But the developer actually returned to this and did a bit more work on it in the last, I don't know, maybe year or so. This orc sentry is tougher than the other orcs we've fought so far, and it is standing actually on the door. As you can see there, as we move away, there's a gold arrow. That is the entrance to Firetop Mountain. So we have to kill this sentry. Well, I suppose... No. I was about to say I suppose we could bait it out of the way, but actually, look at this wiggly bracket here. That is a key. A key labelled 29, as it remarks when we stand on it. We need that in order to get into the mountain. So we'll pick that up. We've picked up some slightly better gear. Orcish chainmail and normal chainmail. Looks like normal chainmail is actually better than orcish chainmail. So we will press U to use, and we'll use the chainmail. And if we now go to our equipment screen, you'll notice we have it equipped. So there's sort of a separate inventory and equipment screen here. I for inventory, E for whatever you've got equipped. We've also picked up a shield, so we will equip that as well. You'll notice also that in addition to the key and the various other bits we've picked up, we also have 4 provisions. Provisions can be eaten at any time to restore a small amount of your stamina. But there are better ways of restoring your stamina. So provisions are basically an emergency resource. If you're if you're in danger in a fight, scarf down a quick bite of lunch. So let's go over here, grab some of the arrows that we fired, and then enter the door. And you do that, you unlock locked doors by pressing U and then a direction towards it. So there we go, unlocked the gate, and we enter Firetop Mountain. Peering into the gloom, you see dark, slimy walls with pools of water on the stone floor. The air is cold and dank. You light your lantern and step warily into the blackness. Far off you hear the scurrying of tiny feet. Rats, most likely. Yeah, that's what you think. You can choose to rest before you continue. We will indeed do that, because that restores all of your stamina. And it might seem a little superfluous. Sorry if you heard the cracking of my elbow there. It happens once you reach your 30s. Your joints start to crack. It might seem a little superfluous to have you rest and restore your stamina when all you've done is walk up to the entrance of the mountain. But the way it's set up is that every 3rd floor, the exit from that floor will be one of those gold staircases, which will give you the chance to rest and restore your stamina. So, it's often in your best interests to try and get to every 3rd floor exit as quickly as possible. But each floor is full of not only monsters, but also treasure chests and keys to open them. Unfortunately, I don't want that club. Okay. Don't want either of those. Unfortunately, you need a correspondingly numbered key. At the moment we have key 29, which was the key to the entrance to Firetop Mountain. And each chest we find will have its own numbered lock, and you need the corresponding key. Generally, I don't find many keys that match any chests. If this is like the game book all the way to the end, then you will actually need 3 numbered keys in order to open the final chest containing the Warlock's treasure. But I haven't got that far yet. But that's the way the book worked. Wow, being surrounded by these orcish servants. Fortunately, the orc servants are fairly weak. You might notice now that our stamina has gone up by 1 point to 14. We actually gained a level, so there is a small levelling system going on here. It's not very pronounced, but you do very gradually get stronger. You might also notice that some of the items we've picked up, this club, for instance, are blue rather than their usual colour. Generally anything that's sort of wood or leather will be brown. Anything that's metal will be grey. Anything that's blue or purple, as a rule, is a bit better. They usually have some kind of enchantment or bonuses attached, particularly the purple ones. So, let's grab this club and just see how good it actually is. It's a +2, so it has a +2 skill enchantment on it. At the moment, we're using a +1 short sword with an attack of 2. So +2 club with an attack of 2 is actually better. So, we'll equip that. If you look at the bottom now, our skill is 12 +2. Whereas if we were to, for instance, switch back to the short sword, the +1 short sword, it would be 11 +1. So it's actually not 11 +1 as in 12. It's saying skill of 11 and 1 of that is a +1 bonus. So we'll switch back to the club, and it's now skill 12, and 2 of that 12 is a +2 bonus. This is an exit from the floor, but it's not the exit we're looking for. And I'll tell you why. A lot of the floors, possibly every floor, although I can't confirm that offhand, a lot of the floors have 2 exits. A grey stairs and a red stairs, and generally speaking the red stairs go to dangerous floors. The dangerous floors do have a greater likelihood of containing treasure, and a greater likelihood of containing keys according to the developer. But they're also full of things like trolls and ogres, which will just absolutely destroy you a lot of the time. So you only want to go into the red floors if you're pretty confident of your ability to deal with them. And if you do go into them, you probably want to hang around as close to the exit as possible so you can flee if necessary. So we haven't found the normal stairs out yet. Once we've found the normal stairs, I might actually go down to the red floor just to see what's there, see if we manage to grab a bit of treasure or something. And as long as we're reasonably careful, we should, hopefully, at least be able to dash back to the stairs up here and then take the normal exit. Okay. I actually haven't found the standard exit yet, which is a little worrying. So, let's take the red stairs. Okay, straight off there's an orc, that's not too bad. Unidentified leather armour doesn't interest me. I will take the arrow though. Aha! One of these guys. Orc warrior. You'll see more and more of these as you go through the dungeon. They're not that difficult, but they are substantially more difficult than the average orc. Okay. What's next? This is worryingly empty. It just makes me think we're going to come across something extremely tough in a minute. Okay, another normal orc. Doesn't worry me. Orc sentry, they're a little bit tougher. But again, nothing to worry about. Orc archers are annoying, but not generally that deadly. Unidentified short bow. Notice it's orange, so it probably has some kind of exciting effect applied to it. Short bow with an attack of 4. So, is that better than our current bow? No, it's actually not. Well, never mind. And get the arrows. What's over here? Aha! That golden and is a treasure chest. You'll see quite a lot of grey and symbols, ampersands, lying around, but they're empty chests which have already been looted. Gold one means there's something in it, but it also means... Oh, crap. Orc captain. It also means that there's something... there's a lock keeping it shut, and you'll need a numbered key. So you'll see when we stand on it, it says you see chest 7, which means we need key 7, which we don't have. So, that orc captain we just killed dropped a glowing book. What is it? The Book of DiMaggio. Oh yes. Usually I don't find that until much further down in the dungeon. If you've ever read The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, then you know what the Book of DiMaggio does. And you'll know that it's absolutely essential. I actually haven't got to the point in this game where I need to use it, but I would assume it's just as important as it was in the original book. So you might have noticed by now that the game is pretty simple. It doesn't have a lot of complexity. It doesn't have a lot of tactical depth. You don't have abilities and skills and things to use in combat. Combat is basically bump to attack, and sometimes you'll want to run away and just head for the exit if possible. Generally, you want to avoid fighting enemies as much as you can, but a lot of the time you will have to fight them anyway. So, if you're expecting something NetHack-ish, or very complex or very deep, you're not going to find it in Warlock of Firetop Mountain. But I do find it a pleasantly accessible roguelike, which is easy to jump into for short play sessions, and it's easy to pick up if you're not familiar with the genre. Even if you are familiar, it's nice to have a game which isn't too taxing, doesn't take you through an hour-long character creation system, and doesn't have a really elaborate interface. I mean, it's basically the number pad, F to shoot, and G to pick things up, and, then just the inventory. Nothing elaborate, nothing too complex or difficult in terms of interface, but the game itself does still have a moderate challenge, but it's not overwhelmingly difficult. So I do recommend checking out The Warlock of Firetop Mountain if you want something that's a bit more lightweight, but still moderately challenging. So that's The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. As always, I will put a link in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself. And this has been the Roguelike of the Week for this week. Rejoin me next time and we'll do more roguelikes of the week. I already have the next maybe 2 in mind. And we are going to start including some graphical ones and some paid-for ones for those of you who are into that kind of thing. So, this has been Warlock of Firetop Mountain, this week's Roguelike of the Week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Bye for now.